So, welcome to the Digital Double Down Business Advantage podcast series with AliNICOLE WOW. That is me, and also the boss, King Rob Deptford. And we are here serving as your leading digital economy level up authorities. And so we're excited to bring this segment to you today. Normally, what we do in these particular segments, we don't have a specific topic. We're just here to be able to provide you with high level value as it relates to you being able to really level up in this area as you're starting to double down for your higher business advantage. So, King Rob, are we ready to get started?
Aren't we always?
That's right. We
Yeah,
talked about that actually last time in terms of, you're ready, you don't have to keep getting ready, right? And talked about even doubling down in that area. Um,
absolutely.
mhm,
Yeah. I
yeah,
think that's part of the nature of the business of expertise, right? If you are
right.
an expert in something, then you should always be ready to speak on whatever it is you are an expert of. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. That's right. Because, when you think about it, there's been years that you've had of preparation for multiple things, right? But especially the areas where you are highly skilled, right? And so there should be always, as you mentioned, that readiness, for sure, in terms of knowing your stuff, but also being able to be open and flexible in the moment that if something else arises that you're not familiar with, even as it relates to your expertise, but because you do have a solid foundation, you're able to kind of use that as a launching pad to expand into greater dimensions, even of something that you don't know yet. Would you agree?
yeah, no question. It's improv, right? That's really what it is. You
Absolutely.
hear the topic and you go with it. So,
There you go. I absolutely love that. That's like where I shine in a sense. But I think most people do too, but they don't allow themselves to really get, into that because there's kind of the success system that's really structured and doesn't really allow for a lot of that type of flexibility. And I think what happens is people start getting their minds fixated in, okay, it has to be this way. I have to dot every I, cross every T. It's a checklist of things that you need to have done. And sometimes that can be stifling, Rob, when it comes to being able to just uniquely be who you are and go with the flow. And so that's another level of readiness that I believe people need to allow themselves to just be in demand and on demand to go with the flow.
well, there's everybody's got a formula, it seems like, right? And
You're
the
right.
trouble is if you're following a formula, then you're going to turn out the same as whoever else is following the formula. And
Right.
we've got to, especially when we're talking about digital space and stuff like that,
Mhm.
you really have to be able to stand out from the crowd.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I mean, if you're following the system or the formula, there are some advantages to
Mhm.
best practices and things like that, but the disadvantage is somebody's already done it.
Right.
So you've got to figure out your own ways to be innovative and creative,
Mhm.
and make yourself unique and
Absolutely.
appealing to your specific target audience, right?
Absolutely. Everyone has a space where they can be kind of the pioneer of their own unique experiences, even though there will always be these core fundamentals, so to speak, that will have to be leveraged in terms of like tools that we use and platforms. Everyone can come to those same platforms and use them, but it's the way that they're using them, right? And
Yeah.
so, a good thing about being in the digital space is that there's so many opportunities, but people miss the opportunities to stand out in their uniqueness when they do try to, as you mentioned, follow this cookie cutter framework, so to speak. And again, some of the fundamentals and some of the information and some of the formulas definitely have their advantages, but people do have to know what is right for them, as it relates to that particular formula, because everything that worked for one person is not necessarily going to work for someone else. And that has been proven, right? um,
Absolutely.
Hmm. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that the experts out there who they've been successful with what they set up. It doesn't mean that that information isn't valuable. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be beneficial to some. But again, where people get, I guess, confined and constricted, so to speak, is when they are trying to follow it step by step. um so as we're talking about this, it's like several things are coming up, and that's the beautiful thing about being able to be in the space, to just start having the conversation, and then starting to go with whatever is coming up that can serve people, at the highest level. So something that I want to talk about, that I think that it would be a good focus initially, anyway, we can go in a lot of different directions, but a good focus is for people to start focusing on doing the unformed. All right. And when you do the unformed, King Rob, so to speak, it is not about following what someone else is doing, but it's allowing yourself to be that explorer of your own experience. And we talked about that even last time, and then being able to kind of show up in the digital space as your own digital nomad. And so when we hear about digital nomad, a lot of times we're thinking about, okay, you have a laptop, you're able to be flexible, like where you go, you don't have to be buttoned down to certain places. But I think that there's the opportunity to look at it as it specifically relates to the digital space. So where am I going with this? All right. Sometimes we hear you need to focus on this one platform and do this well, and then move on to others. There are times where you need to be unformed, because sometimes you can get so focused on one particular platform that you actually miss the opportunity to show up on another platform in a different way. So you have to be able to play from both sides of the track. Do you agree?
Absolutely agree. And I think people get caught up in, well, I've got to spend all this time and I don't have
Mhm.
time to be omnipresent, so to speak. And you see some of the big influencers on social media and stuff. Well, they're not doing all their own work. They've got
Right.
teams of people who are creating content and doing the posting for them. So
Mhm.
you feel some pressure, I think, if you get yourself too wrapped up in that.
Mhm.
But the reality is you do need a multi-platform strategy, but
Absolutely.
you don't have to do it all at once. You have to
No.
do what's manageable for you.
Absolutely. And the thing about it is, in terms of, like, I have a platform even around the whole omnipresence aspect, because that's a major part of my branding authority, is that I am everywhere. But but there's sects of me that are in different places, but I'm not always there. But the functionality of me is, because the power of and leverage of syndication, right? So you can certainly be in multiple places, but you not necessarily having to manage that. So, on the note of that, let me go back to talking about the unformedness, and not being so structured in terms of what you're doing and how you're showing up. Sometimes you need to, but you don't need to allow your routines or even your rituals in business to ruin you, because routines, I've done a talk on this some time ago about how rituals and routines, they can either ruin you or reward you. So even if you start spending too much time in a specific place, and there are times where you do need to have a primary focus, for sure, right, Rob?
Oh,
Definitely.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be able to build it up, but you also have to be flexible enough to know when another platform may need you, even if it is for one day. Even if it's for one day, or say, well, this week maybe you do need to be over here nurturing this platform or doing something else. You just have to not be so fixated in these structures, because these structures, I'm going to say it, these structures are breaking down. And so when you start to go through, it's Rob, we've talked about this, and I've got primary works around this, about the digital um, marketplace metamorphosis. And so when structures start to break down, and they will, people have to learn to be able to do the unformed and go with the unformed, and not be so fixated in, I got to do it this way, it's just this linear path. what we know to be true is that the entrepreneurial journey is not a linear path anyway, right? I mean, that's not a
It certainly is
yeah,
not.
it's
No.
not a linear process. I mean, it typically is the theme park of is theme parkpreneurship in a sense, because you are on one ride 1 minute and you are up on that roller coaster, and then you're going down and you're up again, and you may take a few loops, and then you may get on the tilt-a-whirl, or however, it's definitely a theme park type of experience. But the thing about it is, if you understand that, then you don't really get caught up in, oh my gosh, this is happening this way. And I feel like 1 minute I'm up, 1 minute I'm down. But you're going to level out at some point, right?
It all works out in the wash, as they say.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's about finding a way kind of to navigate the experience and to enjoy it. But you do have to allow yourself to be very flexible. And that's a part of the readiness strategy too, is be ready to come unformed, be ready to be flexible. Yeah, so we could probably spend the whole entire series talking about this particular topic, because I think it's vitally important, especially for newcomers coming into the digital space for business, for sure, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Again, I think it's intimidating to people sometimes, right? But it doesn't have to be that bad.
No, it doesn't. It's all a matter. It's all a matter of perception, right? And having the right perception coming in for and preparing yourself in that way, is vital. So look, we can go a million places with this, and that's why I love being able just to have the conversation, so to speak. And we do have trainings that we provide where they are structured in terms of they're still conversational, but they're topic focused, and then we do give different points and things that you can be able to explore for yourself. And we'll talk a little bit about that before we close out of this segment. But back to the lecture at hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of being able to be just very open and flexible and being ready to be in that space. So are you familiar with the show Chopped, Food Network show?
Another one of the many food competition shows, it seems.
Yeah,
A ton of them
absolutely.
now, but yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. So I've
I
done some.
guess the format works.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've done several trainings around this over the years, and it's been kind of a method in a sense of how I, prepare myself, which I do have a culinary background, but using that method is phenomenal, because with that show, for those who aren't familiar with that particular show, it's a show where experts in the culinary field come in, and they are tasked with being able to take a basket of ingredients that they're not familiar with these ingredients in terms of the combinations of using them. And sometimes they throw in some weird random ingredient that people just like, what is this, right?
Yeah.
But in that space, they have to prepare within a certain amount of time using things that they're not familiar with. But their level of expertise prepared them to come to that arena, right? All right. So they're prepared. But once they get in that space, they have to really become unformed. And see, I love those types of experiences. It's like, oh, okay, this has qualified me to be here. But when I get in this space, I have to actually come out to a point of what I know to be my mastery, right? I like people like, I'm a pastry chef. I specialize in this. I specialize in grilling. Well, in that space, it really doesn't matter. You prepared to come there, but now you have to be able to do something that you aren't uniquely masterful at doing every day. Now, what can you come up with? Those are the best types of experiences to be in, because you have developed on so many different levels that then you get to bring it into an arena where you're out of your comfort zone, so to speak. But in that timing, you get to produce something that you have to be creative. You have to be innovative on demand. And so that's an area in terms of doubling down, King Rob, is that people need to double down in doing the unformed, but being prepared. skilling
Yeah.
up in the areas you skill up in, but also being ready to have your chopped moment and then not be the one who's on the chopping block.
Yes.
Right. But regardless, is that if you qualify to even get there, even if you don't win, it's the fact that your preparation did prepare you to actually be able to compete, and be in, that type of situation. And then should you advance to the final round, even if you don't win, it's the fact that you were in that experience to be able to do something that you can't just have a default, in terms of, oh, my default is I'm so great at this. Well, that's good. Now, can you cross transfer that skill over into this area and then prepare to play at a higher level?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the difference is
Mhm.
in the process, right? The way, like,
Yeah.
we often think of cooking and baking,
Mhm.
anything in the kitchen. We think of that as very methodical. You follow a recipe and you
Mhm.
measure out the ingredients.
Mhm.
But then you get this circumstance where you throw in the mystery ingredient, and suddenly
Yeah.
you're exercising a different part of your brain because you have to get creative.
Thank
And
you. Right.
you don't know how much you need to use or what, like,
No,
you have to figure these things out on the fly, and
you do.
that
Mhm.
is a critical piece of really, anything you're doing as far as trying to promote your expertise.
Mhm. Right, right. And so with that, that's a level of preparation, like I said, that I don't think people spend a lot of time trying to actually master that area. And the reason why it's important and it's critical is because, when you think about how things operate in the marketplace, everyone in a sense is kind of on this robotic type of, it just is the sea of sameness. But how you separate yourself and set yourself apart is when you can actually start to demonstrate on some levels that other people don't have that type of mastery and authority in. And that even if they prepared themselves a certain way, most of the time, because they're so in their routines, it's hard to get them in an arena where they can break out. When you can learn to be a master craftsman of pattern recognition and to be an authority of timing in the marketplace, you're going to put yourself light years ahead of the game. So that's an area where you definitely need to double down in, is doing the uncommon preparation and then staying ready for just any and everything. Your thoughts around that, King Rob?
Well, I'm right with you. I'm right with you. You just don't know what's coming down the pipeline. But if you have the skill set, and if
Mhm.
you are, and one of the things I say sometimes is I talk about my AAA strategy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Anticipate, adapt, and activate or take action.
Mhm.
Sometimes I interchange those things. So
Right.
if
Mhm.
you're always in that frame of mind where you're anticipating what could happen, what are the implications, right?
Mhm.
What could be coming down the pipe, then you're always ready to apply your expertise in some way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to be able to communicate and articulate effectively as things shift and change. So definitely go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing with you. Yes, you have to be able to be prepared for what is inevitable change. That's the only thing that stays the same is everything
It's right.
changes.
That's constant. Yeah, that is constant. And what's interesting about that is, though it's constant, it is also predictable in some regard, because even when people are aware of that, but they still continue in those same patterns. And the thing about it is not that it's really their fault, because a lot of the conditioning keeps people in those patterns. So you think about when individuals who they've already not been successful in certain areas, but yet every shining object that pops up, they keep going at it, or they keep listening to certain experts trying to apply things, because they're thinking, okay, if I do this one more thing, maybe it's going to, but there's already been so much momentum in terms of a lot of things not working. And they don't really take the time to actually start to apply themselves a certain way. And so the thing about it is that you can prepare yourself, and actually leverage everything that you've already done in a sense that hasn't worked. You can actually use that as leverage. But you got to double down in the areas of understanding, how do you actually start to do that and find kind of that one unique piece of the puzzle. Like you got all these different pieces, none of that worked. But there'll be something signature that's unique about you that you can put in there, and then boom, you got the puzzle that's come together. Your thoughts around that, King Rob?
Yeah, you just never know. As circumstances change, you just never know what the demand might be from your audience. So, but something inevitably floats to the top. It may be something that's signature, and it may last a long time. It may not, and then you adapt again.
Exactly. And the point of that too, to your point, I should say, is that's going back to doing the unformed, is that sometimes you have to let things form for the moment and then implement and execute and let that be success, but then don't necessarily have that as, oh, this is my moving framework from, here on out. No, it could be your success formula for the next 30 days. But then you have to come unformed from that and see now what is forming up now. And that's why it's not the best thing for people to take a formula that, even though it's worked for them, and then continue to keep repeating that over and over and over, because what's going to happen is that you'll miss the opportunity where there's something else forming that you need to be spending time also mastering that. See, there's nothing wrong, Rob, in terms of people using things that work. But if you also aren't aware of other things that are emerging and you don't learn how to play from both sides of the track, you're screwed. And the reason for that is because a lot of the success formulas, and people say, well, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Well, that's true. But you also need to know that maybe there's also something else you need to be preparing for. But if you're so fixated on this being the formula, then you're going to miss the opportunity when things shift and you're not prepared because you were one-dimensionally focused. So we could talk for days about a lot of this,
We could.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, something that I talk about in different trainings too, is when you are doing the unformed and you're in the metamorphosis, sometimes even the information that comes at you is going to be unstructured. And I had trained myself over the years to have that type of mindset, that when information, I would receive information or whatever, it didn't necessarily have to come to me in a format of X, Y, and Z, okay, point one, point two. It could be something that is totally, seems like irrelevant. And it's like, but it's all just happening. Like, okay, I don't know how to take this piece and take this piece and then see what I got here. But we're typically not, we're typically not trained for that.
Right.
But there's opportunities, to do that. So I think, in terms of, let's wrap this segment up here. And just kind of bring some cohesiveness to this. So what arose today, in a sense, was that we talked about being prepared, of course, and knowing your expertise, but also being able to come unformed from that, being able to be in the moment, being able to be impromptu, so that you can be really on demand, but also that will make you in demand, as well. And being able to be a digital nomad, in the sense, as it relates to being online, and not just thinking in terms of, oh, I'm a digital lifestyle nomad, entrepreneur, type of, or entrepreneur, and thinking of it of being scattered here and there. You can be flexible, be able to be that in the digital space, for sure. And so then we talked about, what else, Rob? We talked about, of course, the metamorphosis aspect and leveraging the show Chopped, and being able to be prepared, be skilled in your area so that your gift can make room for you. But when you come to a certain arena, maybe you're going to have to come out of that skill in the way that you're used to applying it. So is that kind of a good summation of what we talked about?
Yeah, I mean, not everything is methodical, right? A lot
It,
requires innovation and creativity. So,
Absolutely. And being willing to go with that. And so again, even conversations like these, is that, yeah, we didn't come here with a planned agenda, and yet a multitude of topics can come up, but they're going to be where you can connect it, and people will be able to take that, take the pieces that they need, from this, and then create what's going to be best and unique for them. So, Rob, before we wrap up here, just want to talk a little bit about the strataschool.com platform, which Rob is the president of Strataschool and I'm the vice president. And, on that platform, it is definitely the leading innovative e-learning type of experience to definitely help you enhance your digital experience. And so today we talked about the digital nomad aspect, and there's actually a blog post on the blog. And what I'll do is I'll put that in the description, Rob.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so I'll put that in the description. And also, too, there are products that people can explore that will help them even in this type of initiative, and also other blog posts that are related. So we never want to come to the table and not be able to give you something that you can walk away with and be able to start customizing your success in this new now digital norm. So we'll make sure that we include that. So before we wrap up here, Rob, do you have anything that you want to impart for this segment?
Well, I think just on the Strata School note, the objective there is to help people with an overall more holistic lifestyle. So whether it's anything in life or business. And so some of the things that we talked about today apply to a multitude of different areas in life. I think sometimes we get wrapped up in the dream of things like the digital nomad lifestyle that we've touched on here a little bit. But it's possible, but you have to make it work for you.
Right.
And so some of the things that we try to share, I think, like we have today, are maybe just a little bit of encouragement to explore and use that creativity and innovation to figure out where your piece fits in and how you can make it work for you.
Absolutely, because that's what it's about, is being able to customize your success according to your uniqueness. And also that's something that's going to elevate your branding. And actually, Rob, we have a training on Strata School that is really about discovering your ultimate digital brand advantage, in a sense, and being able to level up in that way. It's your unique spotlight is what it's uncovering in that particular training. And so definitely make sure that we'll have links to that in the description. So as always, I love being able to have these conversations, with you, and you're always ready. We're always ready, right?
We're always ready. Yeah. And the feeling is mutual for sure. And I know, we get on these things and we, as you said, we don't necessarily know what the topic is going to be, but we always seem to find some value to share. And when we actually get into some of the trainings we've done, then there's a little bit more focus on a specific.
Exactly. Right. On specific areas. That's right. All right. So I guess we'll bring this segment to a close. It's definitely been a pleasure and a delight to be able to share the value with the marketplace in this way, because certainly it's needed and required during these times. And the areas to definitely start to double down in more is, your focus as it relates to just your uncommon preparedness. I would say that just stay ready for uncommon opportunities. But if you're going to actually have uncommon opportunities, you have to prepare in uncommon ways. And today we definitely have covered just giving some food for thought in terms of being able to be unformed and do the uncommon preparation for sure. That's going to enhance your authority on levels like never before. So King Rob, thank you, of course. It's always great.
Always fun.
All right, so we are signing off for now, and you know where to find us. We have information in the description, and we are certainly looking forward to coming back to do a few more segments for this particular series, so we can help you double down, so you also can then double up in areas that you need to. So wishing you all the best, and we'll be back with you soon. Take care. Stay blessed.